When I go back to home, I have people say to me, what is it about Bangkok? You must love Bangkok a lot. I'm like, yeah, I like Bangkok. It's the city I've spent the most time in. I do like it, but the greatest thing I like about it is there's always something unexpected, and the people I get to meet.
Meet William, who left Australia in his 20s after realizing he couldn't spend the next 15 years climbing the corporate ladder. He shares why living abroad changed the way he sees people and success, why he chose to call Bangkok home, and how surrounding yourself with people from completely different walks of life keeps you open-minded, curious, and constantly learning. I'm Tyler, showing what life abroad is really like, straight from those living it around the world. Come along.
I'll tell you the honest story. I finished college, worked for this very big company. It's an electronics company, and they brought me in to rebrand the face of the service side of the company, as in be someone who could talk to customers, as opposed to the technicians who would tell them to fuck off. So I had that job, and I was doing very, very well. I was quite young. I kind of moved up the ladder quite quickly. My department that we had for dealing with the clients on the service side was quite small, and kind of took his job within 12 months, my boss. So he ended up working for me.
Wow.
He was like 15 years older than me at the time. I was only in my early 20s. And anyway, I'd been doing pretty well. And it was a Friday afternoon, and my big boss called me into his office and made me sit there, and he was giving me what he thought was the talk of, oh, your life's going to be just fine, your career's going to be going well. And he basically gave me the speech and said, yeah, we really like you here at the company. We can see you over the next 10, 15 years. You're going to sort of move up through the corridors and eventually end up at this office. And I must have been about 24 years old, and I just sat there with a smile on my face, but my brain's going, oh God, no. So I went and got an extra job, and I resigned 6 months later and took off with the sole ambition of growing my hair long and seeing what would happen. And yeah, I'm still on that journey.
So was it in that moment where you said,
oh, I'm sitting opposite him like I am to you, and I'm just like going, there's no way I'm going to be doing that.
Oh.
The next 15, 20 years of my life. I knew the people that were in those offices that I was meant to go and fill. And I was just like, yeah, nah, not going to happen. I thought, well, I'm a good writer. I'll pick up work writing for things here and there and see where it gets me.
So once you made that decision and you went to all these places, how did it change your life? How did it change your perspective on everything?
First of all, I think everyone should go to India, because whatever people think India is far more insane than what people go. It is absolutely insane there. And I think India changes all your perspectives on everything. It's an incredible country with contradictions and weirdness and a lot of rubbish.
Yes.
But incredible things, incredible places, incredible people, and a lot of rubbish.
Where'd you go in India exactly?
I was in Goa. Yeah. Did a couple of seasons in Goa. It's all techno hippie kind of scene there.
So Anjuna?
Yeah, and Vagator, Anjuna. You been there?
Yep.
Yeah, awesome. Oh, yeah. Vagator Beach used to kind of be my hang, Anjuna, the shore bar, all of that,
Yep.
I had an Enfield motorcycle, so I rode everywhere,
That's the most freeing feeling there.
I went to the Enfield factory, and I had a 350cc bike made, and
Nice.
leather jacket, grew my hair long and a beard, just to terrify my mother. Rode around for a year or so. It was awesome. Went up to the mountains, went to went and met the Dalai Lama.
Wow.
Went to Ladakh, went to Kashmir, went to all these insane places, So
Did you go to Varanasi?
yeah, I went to Varanasi. I played water polo in the Varanasi.
In the Ganges?
In the Ganges, yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I didn't want to go in, and then I was, I saw all these people going in, there's bodies there.
Yep.
It didn't look particularly clean, I grew up on the beach in Sydney, I'm a bit fussy. But then, I don't know, I smoked a couple of chillums and someone invited me to play water polo, and I used to play water polo at school, and I was like, next thing I know, I'm in the Ganges playing water polo. Like, I went in there going, why not? Something interesting to do.
So was that like a theme? Why not? Like when you were abroad?
Hell yeah. Yeah. I think when you ask, like, how's it changed, I think if you grow up amongst your peers, that becomes the limit of your knowledge. And all your life comparisons are based on what your peers are doing. So your classmates, your workmates, your college mates, and you sort of gauge everything, your own success or lack of it, you gauge everything on what everyone's doing, right? Mm-hmm. I think the moment you remove yourself from that environment, you give yourself an opportunity to say, yeah, why not?
For sure.
And I think, just programming we have, social programming we have, gives us a certain set of parameters and ways to live things. And I think being able to step beyond that and to look beyond that is more interesting. I came in search of adventure and doing things that I didn't think that I would be able to do if I'd have stayed in Australia. I probably would have got married, I'd be, down at the hardware shop buying paint or something to fix the fence. I'd rather kill myself than have to be someone like that.
Do you feel like that was always within you? Like when the boss was telling you this is your career outlook and you had that, you had that moment, you're like, this isn't happening. Was that always kind of in you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I pretty much think so. So, look, basically, I was born in Malaysia. My father was Australian Air Force. And so he was based overseas, came back, married my mum, and then came over to Malaysia again, and my sister and I were born. So I grew up in Australia in a different time, but I'm as Australian as the next person. My parents are Australian, my roots are Australian and everything, but I was born in Malaysia.
Yeah.
So I never didn't get teased about it, Oh, you're not really Australian, you're Malaysian. It's just petty, stupid kid stuff,
sure. Yeah.
But it always, it has an impression on you. Yeah. And my mother and father both had their own foibles, Mm-hmm. My mother was adventurous until she had my sister and myself, and when she was flying back to Australia, they flew to Hong Kong, to the old airport there, and it was a very rough landing. My mother never flew again, So, and then my dad never wanted to go anywhere cold, and he'd explored lots of Asia, and so if my mum wouldn't go with him, he wouldn't go anywhere. So as a kid, we just drove to either grandparents' place,
Mm-hmm.
And that's not to say I had any bad life or anything. No,
Yeah,
it was just, I was very conscious of another world out there. Yeah. And that probably informed a lot of how I thought of things, I read a lot, from a very young age. I wanted to see what the rest of the world was out there, and my well-meaning boss sitting me down telling me the future is all bright was kind of like, if I go along with this, I could see myself in those offices. And so, when you say, was it inside you? Yeah, I think it was. His little pep talk was the nudge that I just went, yeah. Nah.
Like, now's the time.
Now that was like, yeah, if I don't do it now, I might end up in that job and then be a disgruntled somebody who's divorced in his 40s and then go travel. And never was something I wanted to be, I wanted to get out and be able to say, yeah, why not to things when I was young enough, when I was able to learn things, not too set in my ways, able to have the skills that I had and be able to grow those skills, but also to put myself in places where opportunities come. And I think that's something that, for me has been quite the roller coaster ride. And there's lots of things I'd change, maybe do better. But no, I wouldn't have, it's the best decision I ever made was to get up and say bye-bye and not really have a safety net or a plan. And,
Sure.
I think it was the best decision I ever made.
Was there a moment you could think of when it just kind of clicked with you? Like, this is a totally different feeling I've never felt before, and I'm never going to be the same?
I don't know. I think after the first couple of years, when you stop doing that sort of backpacker circuit sort of thing,
Uh-huh.
and then you start living in places and start meeting people who are living in places. When you go from being a backpackery tourist kind of thing, because
Yeah.
that's what a lot of backpackers are. It's, they go for a year, I'm going
Yeah.
to do this, this, and this, and they have like I left Australia with like a schedule from hell. In 12 to 18 months, I planned to cover half the world and didn't get very far because
Yeah.
I kind of like, I'm not the sort of person, I've been to India, I spent a huge amount of time in India, about a year and a half, all up traveling around and been back a few times. I never saw the Taj Mahal.
Really?
Well, once you're in India, there's other stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
Like Taj Mahal, go on Google and look at the Taj Mahal. One of the things I learned very early when I started to travel was half the stuff people tell you to go and see, it's a bit crap.
Tourist traps, yeah.
Or it's a tourist trap and every man and his dog is there, and like, I always wanted to find a thing, but what's over there, because I think there's more interesting things over there,
So you like off the beaten path kind of vibe.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the off the beaten path was not only was it that moment when I realized like this is kind of my jam, was finding out that there are things off the beaten path, but there's also life and things to do and people in places where you don't expect that you can fit in and get along with them. And whenever I go back to Australia, I have people say, oh, don't you miss Australia? And what about your friends? And I kept in touch with my buddies from back home for about 2 years. And then I think they got bored of me because they were going to buy a new part for the lawnmower and I was swimming with dolphins sailing off an island off Phuket, and I think they just thought I was some sort of asshole going, oh, look what I'm doing. I'm like, well, I might be an asshole, but this is my life, like I'm doing these things, I'm meeting different people and interesting things. So yeah, once I found that I could get in that groove, it worked really well. The other thing too is I've always had a very open mind, and I think when you figure that these are the things that you actually enjoy and the situations you thrive in, I think that's that gotcha moment. That's that you kind of go, I can do this.
Yeah. So what do you think is the greatest lesson you've learned so far?
The greatest lesson I've learned so far. As I say, I think having an open mind and having the ability to talk to people, and when I go back to home, I have people say to me, what is it about Bangkok? You must love Bangkok a lot. And I've lived here for quite a long time, and I'm like, yeah, I like Bangkok. It's the city I've spent the most time in. I do like it, but the greatest thing I like about it is there's always something unexpected. And the people I get to meet. I get to meet all sorts of different people. My friends list is, I go down the pub to meet, I've got an Italian guy, I've got a Swiss guy, I've got a couple of Brits, because there's always a couple of Brits, Canadian friends, Thai friends, Singaporean friends. I look at that and I like that, I like different people that think differently to me, but we can still have a beer and talk about Manchester United.
Yeah.
I like that, I like all the things that make us different, but all the things that can bring us together. And we can be so full of ourselves and so sure of what our ideas are and how we look at the world. And by having different people around you that come from different backgrounds and different circumstances, it really helps, to keep your mind open, And as I say, in our own societies, we just get those ideas reinforced. Whereas here, it's like I can look at things from a different viewpoint because, maybe it's a viewpoint I haven't considered, but, my Singaporean Chinese friend will say, yeah, but this is how I think of it. And I hadn't thought of it that way, And I really enjoy that. I think that is, to me, the most exciting thing is the ability of not knowing what opportunities come up, not knowing who you can meet, and not knowing where something can end up taking you.
Yeah.
I think that's terrifically exciting, but it's also helps you to grow as a person, you know. So, as I say, I think whenever I go back to Australia, I see people my age, and like my sister and I were the oldest teenagers in, you know, whenever we hang out together, we're riding skateboards and we're still in the street trying to get down that hill and round the corner on our skateboards and things like that. And you know, there aren't kids on the street anymore because everyone's sitting at home on phones or on computers and things like that. And I just, the attitude of so many people surrender to, you know, they look at life through a biological clock that's judged by their peers around them. And yeah, no, I'm too old to do that, and I'm too old to do this. And again, it doesn't suit everyone, but I think if you're willing, I think travel and being in other places, it just helps you with an outlook on life. And you've only got one, as far as we know.